Well, it's 5:30, and like our mayor does, we got to start on time, right, Mayor? Thanks everybody for coming out. My name is Steve King with the City of Wenatchee. We are recording this tonight, and it will be posted on the website. We wanted to do that in light of the coronavirus, and so we appreciate everybody coming out, but we're also sensitive to that. We have some hand sanitizer back here, and the elbow bumps or the knuckles are all good. So what we'd like to do is just walk through a presentation with you tonight. I'm going to lead things off, and then Matt Shales will take over, and then the mayor will finish up the presentation, and then we'll have time to go back and have discussion at tables if folks have more questions. I'd like to just introduce the whole room because there's so many people here that we know, but I want to just start and highlight. Mayor Coons, can you raise your hand? Are there, Bob Boogert, is there any other elected officials in the room? Travis? And any other city council members? All right. Past Mayor Tilley? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. We'll go ahead and get started then. Got to figure out technology here. Here we go. So, welcome. Thank you. Introductions. I want to also introduce Chelan PUD. Folks are here, Washington State Parks, and Jeff Wilkins from Transportation Council. Our consultants, KPG Engineering and Anchor Environmental. And then there's a number of city staff folks here that I hope you guys all get a chance to connect with in the afterwards, or if you've already done that. You bet. I wonder if I can get some technical help on how to do that. Lighting. Hey, how do you like that? Okay. So our meeting objective tonight is really threefold. Keep it pretty simple. We want to, one, share what we've heard and what we've been doing since about a year ago, April 10th, 2019. We had a meeting. Recognize a lot of you. And we just wanted to give you an update. We're working on the National Environmental Protection Act process, and so that's a long word for the environmental process. So we want to give you an update there, okay? And then we're just asking for your help to stay involved. We hope you see that we've incorporated comments and information we received a year ago, but then also we really want to show you the project and make sure everybody has an understanding of what it is, and so that we can address the impacts. When you do something like this, there's impacts, and the big the environmental process is all about addressing impacts. And this project is particularly special because of our treasured park area, the Huron Natural Area, the area out, the camping area. I'll get into more specifics about what that means, but that's the goal of the meeting tonight. And our objective is, of course, welcoming participation. So we've tried to provide a number of venues for folks to engage, including please go to our website and please let people know. We know some people probably didn't come because of the concerns, the health concerns. Please spread the word about this project and ask people to engage. So I got to start. I'm pretty sure most folks here have heard of Confluence Parkway, but I just want to make sure folks know. And so we're going to walk through a little bit of background here. Apologize if you've already seen this, but we're going to step through this again because it's really important to know what the project is. And we started years ago with Jan Cook Mack, who basically did artistic rendering. We've taken information about the project, what we've heard, and we've incorporated it into a three-dimensional design to show the perspective footprint. And so we're still early in the stages of this process, and so don't think this drawing up here is the final product, but it is intended to give you an idea of what the impacts are and how this would look. So let's look back. Let's look back to look forward. So first of all, we need to go back to thousands of years. This area was a very important place for thousands of years for the Wenatchee Piscosa band, Native American band, who now reside in three tribes, three federally recognized tribes, the Colville Confederated Tribes, Yakima Nations, and the Sauk-Suiattle. This is also the area where the trading post was, the Miller Freer trading post. And so there is a lot of history here, dating back thousands of years, and then a lot has happened in the last 100 years. So we'll step through that. I love this picture. Bruce McCammon and I went on a binge to try to find old historic pictures. This was the first bridge across the Wenatchee River, first wagon bridge. It's right there to the right. It predates the Horan House. So if the Horan House was there, you would see it just to the right of this bridge. So this is the beginning of transportation across Wenatchee or north of the Wenatchee River. There's a colorized postcard photo that they turned to color showing the Horan House. That's that same bridge. If you go down there, you can actually see the old concrete road in places. And then the state highway department built the first highway bridge across the Wenatchee River I believe it was in the 30s or thereabouts. And so that bridge is still there, still in use today. There's another bridge right next to it. But that was the first highway bridge for North Wenatchee Avenue, and I should look to one of the DOT folks, but I think that was it's before US 2. The name is escaping me. I better move on because Dan. Thank you, Dan. And now we have a pedestrian bridge, a railroad bridge, and then those two highway bridges. So this is what the environment looks like today crossing the Wenatchee River. Sometimes the feedback I get is Confluence Parkway, it's another bridge across the Wenatchee River. And there's a reason for that, and we'll go through that. Why Confluence Parkway? Well, as our valley grows, most people have had the great enjoyment of sitting in the traffic coming into town at about 3:30 in the afternoon. And as our valley grows, the traffic on North Wenatchee Avenue continues to grow, right? And so we're trying to be proactive, trying to address some of the congestion that is there now, but really looking out at the future, we know we're going to have a real problem on North Wenatchee Avenue as our valley continues to grow. This is a map that the Chelan-Douglas Transportation Council developed that shows roughly proportions of where traffic is going that originates from North Wenatchee Avenue. One of the biggest things is we know that most of the growth and most of the new housing units are going to be in the Douglas County, East Wenatchee area. And that puts exceedingly more pressure on Ottobashan Bridge and that movement of traffic to North Wenatchee Avenue and Ottobashan Bridge. Everybody can imagine Eastmont Extension. That was a big road improvement that is driving traffic to this end of town. So back in 2008, when we were embarking on developing a plan to fix North Wenatchee Avenue, we looked at several big picture options to see if there was another solution to addressing North Wenatchee Avenue. Commonly, I hear people ask, why aren't we building a third Columbia River Bridge? Wouldn't that solve the problem? When we went through our traffic modeling exercises and looked at growth patterns and how infrastructure is put into place, we realized the Columbia River Bridge did not fix the problem on North Wenatchee Avenue. Would it be awesome and amazing and be another connection to East Wenatchee? Yes, but it didn't fix the traffic problems on North Wenatchee Avenue. We also looked at another parallel bridge down by the George Seller Bridge. You could basically extend the one-way system and have a one-way bridge system. And we looked at extending Western Avenue to connect over to US 2. That also helps, but it didn't address the Douglas County bound traffic. And then we also looked at widening the lane configuration on North Wenatchee Avenue to 6 lanes or 6 plus a turn lane, so effectively 7 lanes. We looked at those options, and we really realized after that, before we really dug into what do you do on North Wenatchee Avenue, that the best solution for addressing traffic on North Wenatchee Avenue is a bypass. Then we dug into looking at alternatives for how do you bypass North Wenatchee Avenue. We live in a tough valley when it comes to transportation. We have mountains on one side, river on the other side, so it's very challenging to come up with bypass solutions. And we looked at 4 or 5 options here, everything from extending Pershing Street across the river into Chatham Hill. That's the light green or the green color. Here we go. Again, we looked at what can we do with North Wenatchee Avenue, maybe constructing another bridge parallel right next to the existing bridges. We looked at a route in light blue of coming down along the west side of the railroad tracks, kind of down by the Holiday Inn, and then flying up over the bridge, over the river there. And then we looked at this option that's shown in purple, which was Confluence Parkway. And there's a reason why Confluence Parkway worked the best, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then this red option is a variation on that purple option. And so, again, 2011 North Wenatchee plan identified this as the preferred option. And this is going from Denny's, across the railroad tracks, under the railroad tracks at Miller, and then circling around behind the PUD yard out in the Horan area, and then coming through and going under the railroad tracks right at the river, and then up over and out to 97A. When we looked at that at the next level, we found that that was a very challenging environment. One, not a good idea to put the road over in the Horan area. We didn't want to do that. Two, this just didn't work from a grade standpoint. We couldn't get the geometrics to work without getting down below the river level. So that option got modified into this option. This is where we are today. Here we stay, in this area, we stay on Holly Street, and then we go along the railroad tracks where the loop trail is now, move the loop trail over into the natural area, and we cross the river right next to the railroad bridge, and then we're proposing to go behind the McDougal property and along the railroad tracks and then out to 97A. So we have some better pictures, but I just wanted to show you that we looked at these different options. And within an environmental process, it's very important to evaluate other options to see if you can meet your objectives. And so that's what we've looked at in the past, and we're currently doing that again. We're kind of reevaluating those options as we go through the environmental process. So here's a picture that I want to show that really shows what we're trying to accomplish. Down here at this star is where there's 10 lanes of traffic capacity. 3 lanes on Mission, 3 lanes on Chelan, and 4 lanes on Wenatchee Avenue. 10 lanes. So you can, once you get to that point, you're home free. Going into downtown, pretty easy, right? Out here on 97A, once you get to 97A and the Otabashan Bridge, you also have free flow traffic. There's not a lot of capacity or demand on Otabashan Bridge. And so our objective is to connect those 2 stars with the most cleanest, smooth route, and that does the most gives you the most value from a traffic impact standpoint. So, given that this is the preferred option and what we're evaluating for the environmental impacts, we wanted to just give you that background on traffic first. And that's what we hear a lot of people concerned about. And so, when you have a solution that deals with traffic and you have potential impacts to a treasured resource like our park, there's a very intense environmental process that you go through, and rightly so. And that's what you'll see with the tables here. And so we're going to talk a little bit more detail about that process. This is our treasured area. This is the area where we have a natural area and then also a more groomed area where the camping area is. This area is owned by Chelan County PUD, and it's operated by Washington State Park. If you go down there, you'll see a Washington State Park sign. I wanted to make clear that this area is part of Chelan PUD's license for Rock Island Dam. So we have another high level of scrutiny that we're looking at from this standpoint, not only because it's a park, but also it's mitigation for the dam. And there's some folks from Chelan County PUD that will be here with Washington State Parks afterwards, and we want to make sure you know that they've offered to be here to help answer questions. About 200 acres, and this is the area where, this is within that area of 200 acres, and this is the area where Confluence Parkway would go. Most people recognize this if you're familiar with the loop trail. So what we have heard is enhance, enhance, enhance. There are opportunities when you make investments around a park to enhance. This is one of the things we've heard, and we are taking this to heart. The goal of this project is to make not only the park area, the transportation area, solutions better, but also to make the park area better. And that's allowed through the regulations that govern environmental regulation. We have also heard what can we do about mitigation. So identifying impacts, mitigate those impacts. Sometimes mitigations are some things you can't mitigate, but at a whole level, we want to see everything mitigated so there's no net loss. Now, really, we want to enhance, but the minimum bar is no net loss. So as the park, making sure the park is made whole. These are some photographs. I want you to reach out to Bruce McCammon that has done a great amount of work. Bruce is with the Friends of the Rands. He's here tonight and offered to be here at the table over here. He's done a phenomenal amount of research, and these photographs are fascinating because it shows pre-inundation of Rock Island Dam, and it shows how things have changed over the years. This area has been changed a lot over the years. A very wonderful natural landscape, but it's also been a changed landscape. So we have, let me make sure I got it. Okay. So here's what we've heard so far, and the way we're looking at the project based on what we've heard. Screening number one is making sure that the road infrastructure does not detract from the experience of anybody in the park and the wildlife that resides in the park and the natural area. Trail relocation. Most people are very interested in relocating the trail, especially in front of, on Holly Street next to the Chelan PUD facility, their maintenance facilities. So relocation of the trail into the natural area so it's a better trail experience. Certainly the area along the railroad tracks, especially when the train's going by, is not a real pleasant trail experience. So how do we make the trail experience better? Location of the road. We actually, from a year ago, have moved the road slightly. The road used to be along in front of McDougall, on the park side, on the camping area side of McDougall. We're proposing to move the road back behind McDougall and get more separation from the camping area. People come and visit this town, they stay in their campers down there, we want them to have a good experience. So we've already made adjustments in the road alignment based on concerns and comments that we heard over this last year. Bridge. So one of the things I really enjoy about these kind of processes, and when you engage folks, you get a lot of experience at the table. The gentleman last year, Craig, where are you? Here, shared with us. He said, you know what? Why don't you go look at the Elwha Bridge over, they just finished it a few years back, and see if the Elwha Bridge example would work here. Next week, a little trip over to Port Angeles to check out the Elwha Bridge. This is a really interesting bridge, and it's a great way to kill two birds with one stone in addressing the existing bridge, which is narrow and pretty old these days. It's hard to believe that bridge has been around for 30 years. Wetlands considerations. We've learned a lot about wetlands and how the constructed wetlands in the natural area have been drying out. They don't have the water sources that they used to have. So we're looking at how do you bring water back into the wetlands and make that area function better. Aesthetics. I kind of mentioned the screening. Aesthetics also means what does the road look like coming in? Right now when you come into North Wenatchee Avenue, you get to see Harbor Freight and something about cannabis or the joint or something on a billboard. That's our welcome to Wenatchee. We hear continuously that that is not a nice front door, and we're working on that. There's a lot of things in action to work on North Wenatchee Avenue, but North Wenatchee, that's a long-haul project. Confluence Parkway offers us the opportunity to provide a new front door to Wenatchee, and so when we do aesthetics and we incorporate design into the street system, what do we want to say about ourselves? What do we want to say about this community? So aesthetics are important. And then cultural resources. As I mentioned earlier, the cultural resources is fascinating here. Wenatchee Elder Randy Lewis has helped us out tremendously in understanding of the history of Wenatchee. It's a really fascinating story, and it's in this place, it's rooted in this place. There's opportunity here to do enhanced cultural resources. So I want to give you an example where this was done, but I don't want you to take this to heart because we're going to do it better. So in Lewiston, Idaho, they rerouted Highway 12 around past their dike. And I've driven this. I went to school at WSU, spent a lot of time fishing on the Grand Ronde River, drove this road often. Works well for transportation, and it's not bad. It's along with the park. It's okay. It's a slow speed road, 2-lane road. That's what we're proposing. But we want to do a better job of screening the road from the park. So in this situation, you can actually see the road and the park is right there. It's all visible. So we hope to screen the road so that when you're in the park, you don't even know the road is there. And that's our objective, and we think we can do that. We'll show you a video clip here in a minute. With that, I am going to turn the mic over to Matt Shales. Matt Shales, I'd like to introduce, is he's going to be the project lead in this. I'm moving on, and Matt's going to be the project lead. Matt has a background in fisheries biology and salmon restoration with Cascade Columbia Fisheries. And he came on board about a year ago, and so I'm pleased to turn this over to Matt. I'm going to help with getting the video going, and he's going to describe what's going on here and take over. So we're going to take a little trip down the road from south to north. Go ahead. There we go. Back here. Yeah, there's your pop.
All right. All right, thanks, Steve, and thanks to you all for showing up. I'm glad Steve mentioned that he's moving on. I think it's funny that maybe it was symbolic. He's handing it over to me to pilot this. Anyway, we are looking north, and Denny's is just out of view to the bottom of the screen, and so you're looking at the proposed Miller Street underpass right here. So we'll start the video. I'll sort of start and stop as we go through, and then I'll give you all a chance to watch it just freely as it moves through this corridor. You guys all hear me all right? I'm not standing. I should have rehearsed this, so it might be a little bumpy. So there was Denny's there. As we go underneath the underpass, here's Walla Walla Street coming up from Walla Walla Point Park. Approaching the roundabout where Miller and Hawley now meet. And then we'll turn and look up proposed McKittrick Street that'll come down from North Wenatchee Ave, and you see the underpass there. Here's the Diamond Foundry building here. PUD yard to our right. And then you'll notice here the Hawley Street does not come through anymore, so that grade crossing is gone. Now we are where the loop trail goes. I'm going to stop it right there. Now we're where the loop trail is adjacent to the railroad tracks. So just to kind of put you in space here, we are approaching where the railroad tracks and the lower terrace of the natural area come really close together, and maybe you've seen the feral cats next to the trail or their water dish, but that's this location here. So you'll notice that the loop trail has been relocated. It's still on top. It's still up on that upper terrace. There's a bench and some interpretation here, an osprey pole here. And so here's that noise berm, that noise light berm that Steve mentioned. And there's a wall here because of this. You know, it's so constricted here. So that's what you're seeing there. We'll continue on. So as we approach the Wenatchee River, you'll see in this flyover that this is an existing condition with the pedestrian bridge in place and then Confluence Parkway adjacent in between the pedestrian bridge and the railroad track. The Haran Natural Area Gravel Trail comes in, connects right there. Same location as it does today. Confluence State Park. They use parking areas here. So this, so right here, this building here exists today, part of the McDougall operations. If there are buildings located here today, so they've been pulled out, showing that alignment that Steve talked about. That we, we listened, we took into account the comments, and we put the road behind those. And so this is a new opportunity to potentially realize a reconfiguration of some of the parks operations. There's the existing entrance here. Chateau Fair LaPont Winery in the green building, if you're familiar with that. The ESD, thank you, is over here on our right. Euclid Avenue coming across. And then there would be an at-grade crossing here to get over that railroad track that goes north up the Columbia River. Washington State Patrol, Washington DOT, Apple Commission, and then we're at the northern end of the project where it meets up with US 2 and continues on up the highway. Okay. We'll just let it go through once. Wait. I'll try to go back a tiny bit. We get a little bit better view to. So, am I accurately representing the new location?
Well, why do they need to be
This would be considered City of Wenatchee property. I don't know if someone else would.
But what I'm saying is that's good factor. That's good either. It's $100 more than was last. Only had the last 5 years. I mean, why don't they go out Easy Street away? Buy property for a lot cheaper. We get money for the there on the river. We get to those now. Keep on going.
So hopefully you're getting a good feel for where it's located. We'll have this available on some of the computers over here if you want to look at it again, or if you're specifically interested in one area or another. So I'm going to try to go through this somewhat quickly because we want to leave plenty of time for you all to take this information in and come back over here and just realize that whatever I'm talking about, there's likely a visual over there that's taken right out here and it's blown up and we can talk more in depth about it. So from here moving forward, Steve talked about NEPA. We are preparing environmental assessment and coordinating that with a Chelan PUD FERC license amendment. So there's a couple different things going on there, and part of our NEPA there's and you'll want to visit this station if you're interested. But there's this 4F process that highlights the location of this project in relation to what is out there on the ground. Meaning there's parks, there's natural areas. So it represents a higher level of review vigor. I think the agency contact list is near 80 people. Maybe you came to the meeting that the Chelan County PUD held in November. That process is working to identify enhancement opportunities in this area that we're talking about, the Huron Natural Area, and Confluence Parkway mitigation could provide direct investments that work to make some of those enhancements possible. So some ownership. Chelan County PUD owns in the shaded blue area here, all throughout, and then the Washington State Parks manages this area within the green boundary. The lands are classified in the State Parks Management Plan. There's recreational areas, resource recreation areas, and natural areas. There's the board over there that explains that better and chat with folks about that. So working with our lead agencies, FHWA and also Washington State Department of Transportation, it was decided that the appropriate level of environmental assessment was an environmental assessment. So we have kicked that off and we're getting ready to start looking at all the different attributes of this area, collecting baseline information, and moving through the analysis. So NEPA looks at a lot of different things, but these are some of the things that we're currently focusing on, and that's based on, largely from comments from the public, also working with landowners and the managers. Land replacement, cultural commemoration, loop trail relocation, noise and light protection, park features and operations, wetlands, vegetation, wildlife, arts and aesthetics, and Steve touched on some of this. So we'll kind of zoom through this quick. But here, so the project is looking at about 3 to 4 acres of impact that we would need to look to replace. And so we would be looking to do that in this area. The overall acreage of this area is about 200 acres. So we have some real opportunities through this project to really give commemoration to the cultural heritage of this location. And so there's art, and this is up in Pateris, a place to gather and have events, and then also interpretation. And if we do this right, all people from our community, ages and races will be able to come to this place and feel welcome. So we talked about how we're going to enhance or relocate the loop trail as part of this project, and your comments can be directly reflected, and we can take that into consideration. That can be a driver for how that looks and feels and where it's located. Noise and light concerns. So the berm that you saw in the flyover, that's located out here on this edge, and you can see that the loop trail now here would be pushed over here, and there'd be the berm and then the roadway. And this berm has some really neat pieces to it in that it can buffer noise and light of the roadway itself, but then think about yourself down in the Huron Natural Area looking west. The berm could very well obscure most of the train, and the noise from the train, and some of the industrial or business activity down on the other side of the railroad track below North Wenatchee Ave. So here's another shot of the Elwha Bridge and the trail underneath it. Current bridge. So here's a look at what this could be. This is the artist rendering of the potential proposed project, Confluence Parkway, with the loop trail underneath, and you'll notice that the existing pedestrian bridge is not in this picture. The other thing I like about this is that the piers potentially match up with the railroad crossing, giving a little bit of a cleaner look from down below on the river. And then here's a shot from that flyover of the existing condition with the pedestrian bridge and confluence all in there at the same time. So really, a few different options there, depending on public support and comment. You're looking really heavily at the wetlands, the vegetation, and the wildlife, the habitat that's currently out there, so getting that baseline information of what's out there, how it's functioning, what it's providing. Right, I think we have a picture of a moose, don't we? There's a moose out there right now, right? There's bald eagles. There's a lot of different animals that use this area, and there's been culturally and sensitive plant species that have been identified that should be protected, but then also there's a chance to do restoration work that could potentially provide more of those out there. So Steve talked about how we, through early coordination, moved the road alignment back behind McDougal. This is a really great option. One that we're hoping to move forward with. And we have a really good opportunity, right? This road's pretty long, lots of opportunity to incorporate art, really get creative and think about the bridge, right? This is an example from the East Coast where this was representing the honeybee. It was supposed to represent a honeybee hive. So not necessarily this is the right setting for the Confluence Parkway Bridge, but it's the idea that the bridge and a treatment to the bridge could provide art. It could provide light and noise barrier as well. So there's options around that. So moving forward, here's some of the upcoming things that are happening. So part of NEPA will be beginning our technical studies, and that'll include field work. Maybe you noticed a small mini excavator out along the loop trail last week, digging and identifying some existing utilities that are underground out there. Looking ahead a couple weeks, we'll be out there again doing some cultural resource test pits and also doing some geotechnical drilling. And then ESA consultation, section 106, and then wrapping up the majority of the environmental assessment by late 2021. When I say mostly wrapping up, meaning that there's more opportunities for the public to be involved before that's finalized. And so another open house is planned. And at that point, we'll have gone through our analysis. We'll have talked with agencies and other interested folks about what appropriate mitigations would be, and then we'll bring that back. And then that'll be another chance for you all to hear what we found, what were the impacts, and how we're proposing to mitigate those impacts. And the timing for that's early 2021. And then it'll be a formal public hearing on the EA itself. So here's the website. This is where this video will be posted. There's project information on there. And then if you don't find what you're looking for, please contact me. This cpnep@wenatcheewa.gov comes directly to me. Those comments allow me to contact you if you leave your phone number or email. They also go into the public record comment for the EA. And unless I missed or glazed over something, you have anything to add? I'd like to have Mayor Frank Coots come on up.
Well, thanks, staff. Thanks, Steve and Matt. Great job want you to know how important it is when you're the mayor. That is the first time I've seen that video, so don't think I got it any sooner than you guys did. So I thought it was pretty impressive to sort of see how the road layout certainly fits today. I've said this for a while. This is a really important project for our region, and it does really affect us regionally. If you think about where such things are as our Wenatchee schools, Wenatchee Valley College, your local hospital, and how many people have to travel North Wenatchee Avenue to get there. We had one of our retired police officers in the room earlier, and he talked about the fact that when there's an accident at Maiden Lane and North Wenatchee Avenue, you're really sort of stuck. And we've all been through the fires from 2015 and trying to get out of town and do some of that sort of stuff. So when you look at this project, it sort of, in my mind, started as a transportation project. How do we get another sort of road across North Wenatchee Avenue? It just sort of changed in my mind as we start looking at improvements to the loop trail, when you start looking about trying to get water into the Grand Natural area again, which hasn't been there for a while in the way that we've seen it in the past. Chance to pay homage to those that were here long before us, the Pocosa tribe, and what this means to that tribe and to those folks, and be able to actually do something that's conducive to remembering what they've done for us. You know, this is really a remarkable project, and a lot of work has gone into that. I want you to know that this NEPA study we're doing isn't cheap, somewhere in the $3 million range. So you got to do those before you can start building roads. Yet we really don't have a lot of money set aside to build this road. Steve King, a couple of weeks ago, pushed the button to set our federal request back to our friends in Washington, D.C. As a region, Washington, D.C. doesn't give us a lot of highway money, right? There's no highway, no four-lane road around here. So no I-90 or I-84 or I-5 or 405. So the federal government really hasn't participated here in a significant way for a really long time. And so we've asked for $122 million of money from the federal government. That's not all that's needed. We'll know probably in August about what that might look like. And then there's going to have to be some money from the state of Washington. We're going to have to ask from our legislators to keep this front and center. There are other competing local projects and ideas that when you go to the legislature in Olympia and say, you know, what's your number one project, Wenatchee, 12th district legislators, what's number one? For a while, it has been Confluence Parkway, and I think rightfully so, with 40-some thousand cars a day going on North Wenatchee Avenue. In my mind, it clearly rates as our number one regional project. Yet some might think four-laning a road to Quincy might be our number one project, or some other sorts of projects in our region. So what I'm asking you guys to do, if you think we're moving along the right path, and you think we've done enough homework, and this isn't exactly perfect yet, these aren't final drawings, but I think we've come a long ways, that you let your federal delegation know this is important, and you let your state delegation know that's important, because we have to get funding from both of those. There'll be city taxpayer dollars in this as well. We've got some money invested in this. Yet, here's a rare opportunity for us to make the loop trail better, make the Grand Natural area better, pay homage to our folks that were here before us, hopefully make the park experience better, and add to our transportation element in a way that's significant. So I just encourage you all to stay involved. Let your legislators know, let your federal delegation know how important this is. We'll be back in Washington, D.C. Probably in May again to put a little bit more pressure on our legislative folks. Congresswoman Schreier walked it with us a couple weeks ago. Both the senators have seen it, so they're very aware. This grant that we've asked for is it's given by the Federal Department of Transportation Chairwoman Chow. She happens to be a Republican. It's a Republican administration. We are currently in the Democratically 8th District, which is Congresswoman Schreier, but she's a very nice woman. We've been working closely with her. Anything you can do to sort of help say, yes, this is important to our region. This is our time to really get some federal funding here, match it with some state funding, and do something great for your community, and quite frankly, the region. This is as important to East Wenatchee, Chelan County, Douglas County, as it is to the city of Wenatchee. So, again, thank you all for being here. I would answer questions, but I don't know the answers to any of them. That's why we have Steve and Matt. And again, I'd like a little round of applause for Steve King. You know, he's leaving for another spot. And he was the one that put this on a napkin for me about 5 years ago or 6 years ago when I first became mayor. And Linda Parlett said, "Hey, we got some money maybe coming. What would be a project?" And he's on a napkin drew that. That was back of a napkin. I don't know that. So anyhow, these projects come a long way. But thank you for your work here and for your ideas. And we're going to keep this thing going to the finish line. So thank you all. I'll just turn it back over to Steve for any closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and thanks everybody for coming out. I'd be happy to answer a few questions, but I'm also eager for you guys to get in and talk with all the folks that know all the details out here too. So if there's any questions, we could take a couple questions. Otherwise, let's. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yeah, traffic from, are you saying like from the Kashmir area up Highway 2? That would probably stay on North Wenatchee Avenue. That road system that comes into North Wenatchee Avenue. Good question. North Wenatchee Avenue and Confluence Parkway work together. We're looking at in the future about 60,000 cars that needs to go in and out of Wenatchee on a daily basis. They work together. So most of the traffic up Valley will probably still use North Wenatchee Avenue. Most of the traffic from Douglas County East Wenatchee will probably use Confluence. Of course, there'll be opportunities to watch what the traffic's doing and make choices. Yes. Yes.
Like I would get rid of the Holly Street altogether. You could put an underpass there. Somebody could move one of those.
That's a great question. And it brings up a point that I haven't mentioned. One of the objectives here is North Wenatchee Business District. The businesses that are on North Wenatchee are extremely important to the vitality of our community. Almost 1/3, for example, of the gross sales activity that happens in Wenatchee happens in that North Wenatchee corridor. One-ways typically are pretty harmful to business districts because you want traffic to be able to go both ways. So that kind of ruled out that one-way scenario, but it's a good question, and there's a good reason why you wouldn't want to make those one-ways.
You hadn't really touched on that in the district. Is that really key to this project, or is that something added to the underpass on the railroad track?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. McKittrick Street, is the extension of McKittrick Street is where Northwest Wholesale burned up here a few years ago during the fires. And so, yes, the city has been very engaged in getting McKittrick Street extended. We, in fact, either this late this year or next year, will be building a new signal at McKittrick Street, preparing for this underpass. And the challenge will be getting the funding. And so depending on how much funding we receive will depend on when McKittrick is built. Yeah, the one by Denny's is absolutely required to go with Confluence Parkway. McKittrick Street can kind of come either way, before or after. Yep. Yeah, good point. There's a question in the back. Yes. Hi, Judith.
Thanks for everything you've done on this project. Sorry. But if we went to this is a gigantic project. It's a priority. I wonder what lens walking, the diagram today, those cars right next to the bike, right next to the cars, those areas.
I appreciate that, Judith. And we sat down with the Complete the Loop Coalition and the Bike Advisory Board. Bike Advisory Board about a year ago, Complete the Loop Coalition just a couple months ago, and we talked about the trail conflicts and the problems of congestion on the trail. And one of the things that we're proposing here that we anticipate, we've heard comments on and would like input on is, do you make a trail that is a separated trail or wider trail like a bikeway and pedestrian with dividers, or that sort of thing, because of that exact issue, and giving that option to be off the road. We also heard loud and clear from the Bike Advisory Board that they wanted bike lanes, they wanted bike on the road as well. So I think we probably will have a dual setup, as my guess. So good point. And really, we're talking in the city about bridge to bridge, the Black Irrigation Bridge all the way to Otobashan Bridge. How do we improve that entire corridor? And it's something that we've been talking about in the city and want to engage the PUD on. Yes. Yes, 35 is the top speed limit. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a very valid point, and that's something that we'll incorporate. And we've heard a little bit before, so I think you're echoing some other comments of how do you control speed. And so we can look at options like traffic calming, but also how do you look at enforcement? It might be well, I won't speak for officers, but sometimes it's a target location, right? So to try to control behaviors. The power lines are transmission lines. They are feeders. One goes up the valley and one goes due north. Unfortunately, they can't go underground. We've been working with the PUD on that. We are hoping to consolidate and also streamline to make them look better. Yeah. You notice that didn't show up in the rendering. Good point. Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, that what? Oh, the Herman Trail. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Definitely. I mean, the Eagle Nest is, what, 2 or 3 years now, 2 years in, and it's really pretty cool. And so definitely be considering the Eagle Nest. Yep. Yes. Great. Talking about all the businesses on transportation. I'm wondering what's going to be done with North Wenatchee Avenue once the Confluence Parkway is put in. Make it more bicycle. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in place to make that, because people say, well, just go ride the loop. But if you're trying to do business along there and you're using the bike instead of a car, it's kind of difficult right now. That's a great question. You're at the right table. That's a complicated answer, and there are things that are being done. So so if you could ask that question at that table, because there's a lot of things there's a lot of intricacies on North Wenatchee. You're right. It's a really tough spot for bike.
So I don't want to disrupt the flow of questions, but I do notice people leaving. I want you all to notice there are comment cards in the back. comment instead of leave an email.
All right, well, thank you so much, and again, appreciate everybody coming out. Please sign up and be engaged. Thank you.